Ladies and gentlemen, we are so honored and so privileged to have an individual that is a role model. I don't care what gender you are, a role model for Nevada. She has done so much to enrich the lives of people in this state. It is absolutely historical. I want you to understand that our Honorable Lieutenant Governor Lorraine Hunt Bono has been in Las Vegas since
almost 1943. My folks moved here when Las Vegas was a small, dusty western town with a railroad and gambling. And so I have grown up with the city and seen so much. It's been a phenomenal ride, a beautiful journey.
Were there any women that were sort of like, that came before you that were like role models in this town that was basically geared towards men to a certain extent? It became an adult-oriented playground, but it was geared towards men. Do you know of any ladies that may have been a role model for you?
Oh, of course. Number one, my mother,
yes.
Chef Maria Perry,
Beautiful.
the oldest living, not now, God bless her, 102 years old, she passed away, but she was the first celebrity chef in the early 40s. She waited on Bugsy Siegel and Howard Hughes and Victor Mature and everybody you can think of when the stars used to come to Vegas to hide away. And Mama was first. She was a wonderful, wonderful woman, Italian woman, obviously, great chef, but she could compete in a man's world without acting like a man. And it was a great role model for me.
Yes.
And she just excelled in everything that she did in business. And at home, she was just mama, taking care of the whole family. So I grew up just thinking that all women should be like that. You should just do it all. And she was my very first and the best role model. And then women that I had the opportunity to work with when I became a tourism commissioner and then eventually lieutenant governor and head of tourism were women like Claudine Williams.
Yes.
From Harris. Yes. Claudine was an outstanding gal, and she came up the same way my mother and I came up through the ranks, working hard. She was 15, 16, and she was working in gaming bingo parlors, I guess, in Texas as a young girl, and she came here with Shelby Williams, and her story is phenomenal. She was a great role model, and she never forgot where she came from.
Excellent.
Well, I tell you what, for all the young ladies and young men that are in our business, the hospitality business, you are indeed a role model in the subject that we're going to be talking about generally is Las Vegas hospitality evolution. How this phenomenal town continued to reinvent itself from a domestic marketplace to an international marketplace. I wanted to ask you, all of your roles in politics, can you start from the very beginning, the very first time you became a servant to the people in politics or serving the people in positions of politics?
Well, it was an interesting journey into politics because my mother and father, as I said, had Italian restaurants in Las Vegas, right down the street from the Musicians Union on Fremont Street at one of the places. And I was nothing but a music major, played piano, sang, wanted to write. That was my whole focus was the arts. And I went to college music school in Westlake College of Music, where all the greatest jazz musicians, that played for all the greats, taught. And I learned from them. But then I came home on my first vacation semester after the 2 semesters, actually, to the little pizzeria on Fremont Street with my mother and father had the restaurant. And I had been singing through high school in Las Vegas on talent shows, etc. And I loved all the entertainment. And I was always at the Sands Hotel because Jack and Trotter, who was the entertainment director at the Sands. As you all know, you'd see Jack and Trotter Presents, Count Basie and Frank Sinatra. Well, I was this little 9, 10, 14-year-old girl hanging out in the hotel with Carolyn Trotter, who was my best girlfriend. We attended Las Vegas High School together. And they knew I loved the music. So Carol and I mean, every weekend we were there with everybody you can imagine. Gregory Peck and all the major stars, Marilyn Monroe, Kim Novak, Harry Cohen, all the motion picture people, Elvis Presley hanging out with us, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin and his whole family. And I just figured that was what people did.
That was normal.
It was all normal for me. And so it was a wonderful, wonderful childhood for a child that loved the entertainment and the arts. So I grew up through every stage of the development. Each new hotel came online, the ups and downs of the economy because of my parents having the business.
Oh, yeah.
And the reinventing is so critical because it's so unique to Nevada because it stems in creativity. Mm-hmm. A lot of it has to do with the people that came here, true entrepreneurs, coming from all over the United States at first, and then obviously from everywhere, but coming here to be themselves. They were in gaming in the East. It wasn't legal, but it was legal here. Mm-hmm. The entertainers, but it was all very creative. So the entrepreneurs, the sky's the limit. So that's why it was easy for them to reinvent themselves. Mm-hmm. You lose one little step, and they go, well, we'll go on to something else. Well, we'll do this, we'll do that. That essence is so still unique in the sand and the dirt and the soil, in the mountains here, I think, and in the air.
Yes.
And I think you all agree because you've lived here a long time, too.
I was born here, 1952.
Oh, for real? I was almost.
Yes, close enough. A couple months.
Excuse me.
At Nellis Air Force Base. I was born in Nellis in 1952.
Oh, and here in Nellis.
I want you to tell me your first political appointment.
My first political appointment was I was very involved in the Nevada Restaurant Association because I had gotten into the restaurant business. I had bought some land when I was singing at 19 years old. I bought some land out in the middle of nowhere in Las Vegas at Tropicana and Eastern.
That's it? Not in the middle of nowhere now?
No. And in the 70s, my mother wanted to start a new restaurant. And I said, we'll put it there and I'll put a little jazz group in the bar and we'll have Italian food, good music, and everybody will hang out there. And so we built the first bootlegger Italian bistro at Tropicana and Eastern. Yes. And then Richard Bryan, who was then governor, dear friend of mine, who also attended Las Vegas High School, a few years ahead of me, but always there. And Richard used to come in all the time, and he said, Lorraine, I'm going to appoint you to the Nevada Commission on Tourism. I'd like you to be tourism commissioner because you started the Restaurant Association. You've traveled throughout the entire state, all the 17 counties. Yeah. You know every little truck stop or the restaurants. You know all the entertainers. You worked the Nevada circuit as a singer and entertainer, Reno, Tahoe, Las Vegas. I worked that continuous circuit as a young girl. I was fortunate to have many good jobs there. Harris, I worked for the Harris Company. So yes. Richard said, I'd like you to be on the Nevada Commission on Tourism. I said, what are we doing? He said, we want to promote more and more tourism to the state of Nevada. And we were doing it then more of a regional basis and somewhat with the junkets coming in from the East Coast, but not to the extent that the vision that I saw was the globe. The whole world's our marketing area. So he said, and I used to talk to him about this. He said, go in the commission and do your thing, So that was my very first, but it was an appointment as a tourism commissioner. That was in the early 80s. Mm-hmm. And then you fast forward to the 90s. I'm still in the restaurant business, but now the restaurant business is small business. I'm a huge small business advocate because small businesses, being an Italian, the American dream. That's my relatives came here in the early 1900s from Italy to get over a suppressive government, to be all they could be. The work ethic was huge. They just wanted to bring their families here and make a better life. Mm-hmm. And so I started, my mother would say to me, she's still working in the kitchen and cooking, and all the celebrities are coming into our restaurant, and it's doing very well. But she said, Lorraine, they're killing small business. You got to get out there, babe, and do something about this one. Me, I'm a music major, and I'm a partner with you in the real estate investment. Excuse me. And so therefore, my mother kept encouraging me, look at this new regulation. Now, this is ridiculous. You go down there, well, here's why. And she would go 1, to 3. And I go, oh my God, that's not free enterprise. This is way too much government interference. Maybe if it was a huge, big corporation, but not for little mama.
Yes,
Papa, what are they
exactly.
doing to us? So I started to go down to the county commission, the city council. I got on the Chamber of Commerce board, and then I got involved with the government affairs and started realizing, oh my God, all these laws that we have to live under now, if we had done something about it before they were enforced or put on the books. But once they're already in the books, man, they just
It's
keep
tough.
growing and growing
Yes.
and growing and growing. And it's killing that entrepreneurial environment that made our country so great, and Nevada and Las Vegas. So anyway, the more involved I got into government affairs, I was at the Chamber of Commerce of Las Vegas, and some folks came, Claudine Williams being one, and Bob Maxey was the other. He was building
Another high school.
MGM, another high school, Las Vegas high school group. And they said, why don't you run for office? I said, I'm a music major. But they said, no. I said, what would I run for? They said, there's a position not open, but you could run for a county commission and you could do so much good right in your own backyard. You could stay in the business with your mother and father. You could still do musical things, which I was helping promote young talent because music was always important. Do all the things you're doing. And I'm going, my son is grown and out of the house. The business is somewhat stabilized. We had a good crew. I said, well, I never served in the armed services. This might be interesting. And again, being the creative, always pushing the boundaries that I am and have been, I said, let me give that a try. I don't know what it's all about, but I'll jump in there and try. So I ran for Clark County Commission District G, and I won. And by 11%, which was shocking because I'm a registered Republican and it was a highly Democratic district, but it meant no difference. I didn't even
Leadership is leadership.
It's a county commission
Yes.
district. It's not a part. It's people thing. It's what you're going to
Right,
do.
exactly.
What's right, what's wrong, what you believe in.
Yes.
And my core values were, maybe that's the bullheaded Italian in me, but my core values were so regimented that, and I just would tell people the truth. And fortunately, they understood and they elected me. And it was a great time because the being on the board of Clark County Commission taught me a lot about county government, which is, as you know, I mean, the Board of Clark County Commissioners is the strongest and the biggest governmental entity in the state,
Indeed.
second only to the state itself.
Does it? Yes.
And so I learned we were the airport authority, regional transportation, the water district,
Convention.
UMC, convention authority. And so they put me on the board because of my tourism experience. I represented the county on the LVCVA, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitor Authority Board, and then ultimately became the chairman of the board. But it was a wonderful overview. Being a business person, I could certainly read a budget, and I knew how to create a budget and all of those things that make you survive
Exactly.
in the world of business. So I went into the Board of County Commissioners, obviously not needing the job and not wanting, I didn't even know what it paid. It really didn't mean it. I just I can do some good in my community, and found it to be a great overview. It was a huge briefing for me. It wasn't a big learning curve because I was already so business oriented. And so I got in there as a county commissioner and loved what I was doing and did 4 years there. And I loved the job because it was so broad in so many ways. The huge budgets. We oversee liquor and gaming. Huge. And I'm a sponge. My lawyers' friends have taken care of us over the years. Always accused me of practicing law without a license
problem, yes.
because I get so
see.
involved in reading and I get enthusiastic about this stuff. It really turns me on. So I found it to be a great learning experience, and I realized.
Who's on the board with you?
Then I had Paul Christensen
Okay, great.
was on the board, and Marilyn Gubler was on the board, and she was.
Horsewoman, yes.
Yep, she was terrific. And then we had hotel representatives, obviously from all the hotels, 13-member board, and it was great. It was a wonderful experience. And I had told you both earlier that I had been a singer prior to becoming a county commissioner and opening the restaurant and becoming a restaurateur, but I also had opened the Landmark Hotel in 1969 as a singer. And then as a county commissioner and chairman of the LVCVA, the board decided to implode the Landmark. Well, I fought that because I felt that we were imploding too many things in our history that needed to remain, certain things.
Yes, indeed.
And there is the picture of the Landmark Hotel. In the upper corner, I'm singing at the Landmark. In the bottom, I am the chairman of the convention authority right before the day of the implosion.
All at the same time.
And all at the same time, and I could not get the board. Only 3 people voted to save that tower. That was Paul Christensen, county commissioner, and County Commissioner Marilyn Gubler, and me, and we were outvoted. All the other guys said, tear it down, we'll build something else. We're going to put in a parking lot.
Oh, I thought they condemned it for the convention.
Well, they did the whole thing.
That was their game plan.
And I had no problem with all the old hotel rooms that had been there and the other acreage that was there. But I thought that tower was iconic. And they could make tour offices, visitors' offices, whatever. But anyway, it's gone, but it's still in my memory. So it was very surreal. The night we were at Debbie Reynolds' hotel, 4 o'clock in the morning, actually. And they had us push the button. They had 3 buttons, and they said, okay, all 3 of you are going to push the button. It was Rossi Rollencotter.
Yes.
And then Paul Christensen and myself. And 1, 2, 3, and I thought I was going to cry like a baby. Because it was just, I didn't want to do it, but I figured, oh well. I still probably cry now. So we pressed the button. And we all had these big hoods on because we didn't know which way the wind was going to blow. But the whole thing was so surreal. If you have footage, which there is a lot of footage on it, of that building going down, and it only went down in half. And the one half that was still standing, I said, that's where my stage was. That's where I was used to sing there. And then finally the whole thing just collapsed. But I didn't cry. It was just a weird experience. And I had been also promoting motion picture and television big time at the time. Casino paved the way for all that to come in, and a lot of movies. And that night when we imploded the landmark, we were also filming. What is that crazy movie about Las Vegas? Oh my goodness, The Martians, Mars Attacks.
Oh my God! Jack Nicholson's.
It was, yes. So they were saying before you implode, they were running down the street in front of the landmark, and they go, no, we're not going to implode yet. One more, and the directors, they're all on the phones and everything. And when they got the right shot, the director must have said to the people, we were up on the parking garage of Debbie Reynolds, okay, we're done with the shot. We got the shot we needed for Mars Attacks. Go ahead, commissioners. Push the button, and boom, and the whole thing went down. So.
Oh my goodness, that is a great story. That's a great story.
I want to go back to all of the iconic people that graduated from Las Vegas High School.
Exactly, my question too.
Oh,
yes.
my.
Can you name some of the people? I know that
sure.
I know Sig Rogich went there.
Oh, Sig Rogich went there. I think Mike Sloan went there. I think, did Sig go to Las Vegas High School or to Basic? Oh, okay. I know Harry Reid went to Basic.
Yes.
Yeah.
He went to Las Vegas High. I'm almost sure he did. I know that a couple of our governors and senators.
Is it Governor List? He may have gone to. I'm not sure.
And Governor Bryan was there.
Oh,
right?
Definitely, Richard Bryan. He was
a senator.
I campaigned for him for a student body president at Las Vegas High School.
Goodness.
That's incredible.
That's great.
Yeah, a lot of the bunkers, a lot of the bunkers,
yes.
a lot of the Levitts. I mean, it was a small town in those days.
Yeah,
we all knew each other.
Yes.
It was great. It was great.
I tell you, I wanted you to tell our audience about this picture.
Well, that picture is when Virgin Airlines, that was the inaugural flight of Virgin Airlines, and I just found that in my archives. I'm doing my archives right now, and as you can see, we had the showgirls, we had the plane, and of course the icon there of. Did I put the date on there? I don't have the date on there. But Richard Branson in his Elvis outfit. If any of you recall, that's Richard Branson dressed like Elvis and Lorraine Hunt and the showgirls welcoming Virgin Airlines. I did a lot with air travel. Sure. We knew how important when we looked out globally to want to promote tourism on a global, international air flights coming in was critical. I also got a great education with our Ivanpah Airport that hopefully has been revived now.
That was the one that was going to be outside.
Excuse me, yes.
Yes, yes.
And I know that I do believe that some of that's being revived now, and eventually it'll be a tremendous asset for our community.
Yeah.
And you had the honor of
Yes.
naming or being a part of naming Frank Sinatra Boulevard?
Yes, that was when I was on the Board of Clark County Commissioners. And I'm on regional transportation. We're having all these meetings with where we're going to put freeways, and we were developing the Bruce Woodbury I-15 and I-215 and all those other wonderful projects. And we have the frontage road that was running parallel to I-15. The freeway in the back of the strip, and they said they wanted to expand that frontage road and let it become a back door for the employees to get into the hotels and for deliveries to take the pressure off of the main corridor of the strip. And so as we're having all these meetings talking about where the rights of ways are going to go and various other things, underground improvements and what we're going to do, they kept saying frontage road. I go, well, this road is going to be a magnificent corridor. They're right along, running parallel with I-15. I said, we should name it something else. I said, could we name it? And I was fairly new on the board, and I didn't know all the powers that be. And they said, well, you could rename it, Commissioner, if you wanted to. I said, I could rename a road? They said, well, sure. I said, what do I have to do? I mean, I had no idea at the time of all the, because I was fairly new, and they said, well, you just have to sponsor an ordinance and then hope that your other county commissioners, you could talk to them about it and see, how they feel about it. And I said, oh, I'd love to do that. I grew up at the Sands Hotel with Jack and Trotter, and I saw what Frank Sinatra did, bringing celebrities, kings, queens, and everybody in the world to this hotel. And I remember specifically as a little girl going to see shows at the Last Frontier, and everybody had cowboy boots on and 10-gallon hats, and we were a Western town, and it was Western, and all of a sudden, my mom and dad take me to the Sands, and I'm sitting in the front row, and I hear this wonderful music. Of course, if you're Italian, Frank Sinatra is always singing in your house, and you have a picture of him in the living room with the Pope. I mean, that's just what Italians do. And I see this guy walk out, big, beautiful blue eyes, it's Frank Sinatra, with this black suit on and tuxedo,
class.
And
yes.
class, and the white cuffs and the big cuffs and the big collars. And I'm a little girl, I'm looking down, must be, 7, 8 years old, and I'm looking up and down, and I look down at his feet, and I see these, I'm right there at the front stage, I see these black patent shoes. I'm going, wow, this is the way I like to see men dressed. That's so cool. And he brought a whole new, suddenly everybody was,
dressed
they always,
to the nines.
and it was really a turning point in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And suddenly so I do feel very strongly and did feel, and that's why I wanted Frank Sinatra honored, because I do feel that he, with his whole group and his leadership, put Las Vegas in the global spotlight of the world. Princess Grace, everybody that wanted to come and see that part of Las Vegas. So when I'm going back to the county commission meeting, I said, I think if we could name it Frank Sinatra Drive, it would be wonderful to honor the contribution he made to putting us in the global spotlight, which is our new focus, the globe, the world,
exactly right.
for tourism. And so obviously the board agreed with that.
It had to be unanimous.
It was unanimous.
That's what I would.
And hence...
Who's going to go up against the chairman of the board?
Hence we have Frank Sinatra Drive today, and Frank Sinatra Jr. was a dear friend. We lost him. He passed away a while back, and with my husband Dennis Bono and I, and Frank came in for the dedication, and Tina and Nancy, the family, thanked us profusely, and Nancy was alive, senior at the time, and they were so grateful. But Frank came in, and he did a lot of good things. He loved Nevada. Frank Jr. loved Nevada. He knew all the rurals. He knew every mountaintop. He knew a lot about. He really loved our state, and so he was just very honored. They were very touched, and have always said how much they appreciated that, because every time they drive down the street, they look up when they come into town and go, thank you. You remember my dad and his contribution.
What you said about Frank Sinatra was a flashpoint in that evolution that we're talking about.
Yes.
Going from a Western motif to
bet.
now we're becoming, dressed to the nines on the strip. At one time, you couldn't get into a lot of the showrooms without a tie and a suit on.
I kind of miss that. Do you?
Well, I kind of miss it too.
We talked to Jackie Robinson, who's building the property between the Sahara and the Fontainebleau.
Okay.
He's bringing that back.
Oh, it's
we
due.
all agree. We said, we need that.
He's going to make a fortune.
Yes.
We were just in my restaurant, the Bootlegger, the other night talking with some people about that. And I said, if somebody was smart enough today I said, if I had millions and millions of dollars, I would build an old Vegas hotel with the same criteria.
Vintage
and I
Vegas.
think people would, that's why they come into our restaurant so often, to the Bootlegger. We have all those pictures of the past.
I love those
and they
photos.
come in and they go, this is what we expected Las Vegas to be like. I have the cocktail piano player playing at the Grand
We
Piano.
were there.
It's just,
Dr. Peacock and I were there, and no wonder the menu is your mother's.
all her recipes.
Okay.
Man, we had a ball. We
Thank
ate,
you.
and the product and the service was 5-star. at the
We have some
Bootlegger.
great employees who understand. Mama just died about 2.5 years ago, and she was 102. She was in her kitchen at least 4 times a week. Even then, I put her in the wheelchair because her back was. I didn't want her to fall, but she would tell those kids in the kitchen, "Listen, when I'm dead and gone, you don't follow my recipes to a T.
To a T.
I'm going to come back in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, and I'm going to pull your feet." She scared them to death, and she'd say, "You want to do a special? Do your creative thing and do your special, but you don't touch my sauce.
Yeah.
You don't touch my pizza." She was hysterical.
If you're ever in Las Vegas, you have to go to the Bootlegger. It is wonderful.
It's old Vegas.
It is
But the
vintage.
hotel is exciting to me. He's going to have a huge success there.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. What about Al's Bar?
Al's Bar.
Who is Al?
Al, I always
Tell me.
underestimate. My father, Al Perry, he looked like
that's Dad.
Cary Grant. My mother and father had the most beautiful, loving relationship you could ever imagine. He was the wind beneath our wings. He was there supporting his girls. Very talented. My dad was the visionary. My father was the one who said, "We're going to go west," because he was in Niagara Falls, New York, freezing cold during the war. He had terrible rheumatic fever. He almost died several times. And the doctor said, "Al, if you don't get out of out of Niagara Falls,
Oh my goodness.
you're never going to live to see your little baby daughter Lorraine grow up." And there was no television in those days. Keep this in mind. He's a little Italian kid, poor. During the Depression, they didn't travel. But he said, "Doc, what do I do?" Because doctors were more affluent and they traveled. And the doctor said, 2 places. I would suggest you either go to Las Vegas, Nevada, or Phoenix, Arizona, because both places have a dry climate and you could be healthy. And my father said, Maria, pick up your pots and pans. She was just a wonderful cook at home.
Those too?
And everything. And we're going west. And we're going to go to Las Vegas, Nevada, because it sounded more Italian. Well, that's what he said. So we ended up here in December. It was freezing cold. We left Niagara Falls, drove to Buffalo through the snow with chains on the tire. My parents tell me the story. And all the relatives, all the Italians are on the front porch crying and waving. They all followed us out here later and stayed with us before they even got a room. Yeah. And we pulled into Boulder City in December 1943, my father said. We had left, keep in mind, Buffalo and Niagara Falls in snowstorms, blizzards, traveled all the way across the country. And we pull up over after Boulder Dam, and my mother's going, "Albert, where are you taking me? There's no trees, nothing grows here." And all of a sudden you pull over the mountain there as you come from the dam, and there's Boulder City, and all these people are out there, and they're in their shorts, and they're watering their lawns. And my mother said, "Oh my God." I said, "I know we just died. We died and we went to heaven. This must be heaven." They couldn't believe it.
Yes.
And of course, after that, my parents could have worked for the Chamber of Commerce. They loved Las Vegas. We lived in Henderson originally. On the highway, there were all tents. There was no. There were. It was during the war. At the end of the war, fortunately, my father had worked at a chemical factory in Niagara Falls prior to getting ill with rheumatic fever. So he had this background in chemical engineering. So he went to the Stauffer Chemical Company, or Basic Magnesium, whatever it was called, at the time in Henderson. He walked in, they were having this huge vats were over exploding and something was going wrong. And he walked in and he said, I came to apply for jobs and we have an emergency right now. He said, what is it? Well, this chemical, blah, 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 because they were making chemicals for the bombs, for the war. And my dad says, well, wait a minute, I'm a chemical engineer. You what? Oh. He goes in, long story short, he solves the problem like in 6 hours. It's all done. You're hired. Because everybody was, all the young, healthy guys were, had gone to war. Because it was drafted. They were all drafted in the Army. And they had all these little cowboys there that, I don't know anything about chemical engineering. Right. So my dad got a job there. And my mother said, she had to work too. And she said she got a job she went into in Henderson. Lady had a little cafe there that she served the factory workers. And my mother went in and said, I'd like to apply for a job. She said, what do you do? So I cook. And my mother was very,
modest.
But when she got in there, lo and behold, she ended up running the kitchen, and the big chef from Las Vegas that was at a place called on the Strip, right in front of where the Desert Inn is now. There was an old Italian restaurant there called the Villa. It was called the Fiesta Villa. Fiesta Villa. This was in the 40s. And Chef Dominic Piscatelli was a very famous chef in Hollywood. Piscatelli, who had moved to Las Vegas to cater to the stars. Howard Hughes and all these people, and he snatched my mother up, brought her to work with him. They ended up partnering and opening restaurants. That was how her entree into the restaurant.
It's almost like a divine intervention.
Isn't it?
A father going there and going to the factory and then saves them.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And Dad lived to 96 and Mother to 102. So this town and the evolution, of just growing. We went through the whole 60s proliferation of gaming. Atlantic City is going to, forget Vegas. It's going to kill us. In the meantime,
no more junkies.
My father, you're talking about Al, the visionary, he was the land guy. He always used to say, look, I like to work hard, work overtime, but you're not going to become a millionaire just by working for a living, but you got to make investments. You're here. He said, look at Lorraine, this dirt, he'd drive me around. That's why I bought Piece of Land was 18 because my father put it in my head. This is all. He taught me to play Monopoly when I was about 6.
Oh my goodness.
And I think he was trying to get me to see, what do you want to buy? The hotels? And I wanted to buy the railroads and I wanted to do it. I think he was setting me up big time. But he was a visionary. He was very creative.
But you bought this property at what age?
I was 18 and a half, almost 19.
The first time you performed in Las Vegas, how old were you?
Probably 15.
And did you know Wayne Newton?
Very well.
And
Wayne's family used to come into our restaurant at Trop and Eastern, and I knew Wayne. He worked the Fremont Hotel when he was 14.
Wow.
And I'm a few years older than he is.
Paul Loudon was a young turkey.
Paul Loudon and I worked at the Desert Inn when Paul Loudon was an organ player.
Carlton Hayes.
Carlton Hayes, oh yeah.
I know him well. Well,
great band
bless him. He was the
great
musical
band
director.
You bet.
Yeah.
It was a great era. And here I was, this young girl that was interested in music, and I was around everyone. Some of my dearest friends became, Sarah Vaughan and I were very close. My favorite singer, Edie Gourmet, Steve Lawrence, they all became my friends. And it was so beautiful. I mean, I learned from the best. Jazz musicians taught me how to sing. I took singing lessons from the nun at Catholic school, but she wanted me to be an opera singer. And I go, sister, I really don't want to sing like that. And she said, well, Lorraine, how do you want to sing? And I said, can I bring you some records? And she said, yeah, bring me some records, honey. I want to see. She was just lovely. Sister Mary Florian. And she was not judgmental at all. I want to know how you want to sing. So I bring in Sarah Vaughan record and Peggy Lee record. And I said, this is how I want to sing. And so she just listened and she went, oh, well, you know what? Let me just teach you how to breathe and piano because I don't know how to teach that kind of singing.
Yeah.
But she was so sweet. She didn't discourage me, and she was wonderful.
You look at the entertainment now compared to this evolution and change of entertainment from the one word. Well, we're back to one word on the billboards like Frank or Sammy or
the glory days. We in the business, the entertainers call that the glory days.
Yes.
When you had a charismatic person that could walk out on that stage, I mean, even like a Johnny Carson. are. And look at comics, Don Rickles and the lounges. One individual that could mesmerize an audience
Hold them in.
and hold them in. But then, and now it's, wow, bow. They're all one-word shows, but
Yes.
but there is a reason for that, and I understand because when I went to China to open up the market there when I was lieutenant governor and to get a particular contract with the People's Republic of China to advertise Las Vegas in the People's Republic of China and then Nevada as a whole, as long as we didn't talk about gaming, but we had plenty to talk about: food, showgirls, the Wild West, going out in the middle of the night in the desert, and all of a sudden turning off the lights in your car and being able to see all those stars. Those are the things that appealed to the Pacific Rim and that whole different market. So, and I can understand why a lot of the shows became, well, you're going to get all these people from all over that don't understand the language. So let's make it more, it doesn't have to be languages. So they brought in some of these extraordinary production type shows,
Yes.
which is lovely. And then a lot of the single acts now seem to be going into the concert venues. But that old Vegas thing, when you drive down the Strip and you see Steve Lawrence, Edie Gomez, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Johnny Carson, bing, bang, boom, all the way down. It was just like, and can you imagine me as a girl, 15, 16, 17, and all my relatives were maitre d's in these hotels, and they'd let me sit in the back of the room with a Coke and watch the acts. I mean, I was, what a school to go to.
Yeah.
Speaking
And the
of
bands,
You have
the
your
orchestras.
PhD.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's right.
Speaking of maitre d's, Johnny Lopez over at the Desert Inn
yes.
was really a good friend of yours and your husband.
Yes.
And he said that your husband asked him for a favor. He told me to mention this to you.
Let me hear
and
this.
and that favor was, can you get some good friends? The Sinatra show was booked. Can you get some good friends in? And he got them in on stage.
He did.
And
that was Dennis Bono. My
Right,
husband, Dennis
right.
Bono, was brought to Las Vegas by Frank Sinatra and Jilly Rizzo. Jilly Rizzo
It was his man.
That was his manager. And Dennis, and so they heard him when he was a kid in Connecticut. And Sinatra said, bring this kid. This kid is going to carry the torch for our kind of music. He's got it. And so anyway, he did. When you're exactly what you're saying, Dennis was working at the DI,
Yes.
and they couldn't. A friend from back east wanted to come in. He says, "I'll pay anything. I don't care. Very wealthy man. I just want to see Sinatra." And he went to the maitre d'.
Yeah, Johnny Lopez.
Johnny Lopez, and suddenly, as they used to do in the olden days, if the place was all full and somebody came in that they wanted to put somewhere, they would just find a table, they'd pick it up and go plop it down right
Put it
on
down
the
for the
stage.
horn.
The
That's
guy
right.
was thrilled. He never forgot that. He told me.
Johnny wanted me to. He didn't know if your husband was going to bring you to the set or not.
Oh, my
he
goodness.
said if he was there, just pull him aside and say, Johnny Lopez says hi.
You got to give me his number when this
I
is
will.
over.
I will.
Because they would have a lot to talk about. We'd love to see him.
Johnny was, back in the day, the Maitre D Club was a big club.
They
that
were
did
powerful
a lot
people.
of things. Yeah, they were very powerful.
No Ticketron.
They were
No,
wealthy.
No.
No Ticketron.
What did
No
you say?
tip
They were
reporting.
wealthy?
Yeah,
They were wealthy.
no tip reporting, and no tax on tips in those days. That was
Right.
considered a gift.
Think of Siegfried
Oh,
and Roy.
boy.
2 shows a night, 1,000 people, or whatever it is.
That's right.
Yeah, that's why they were.
You remember?
Yes.
It was great.
We're trying to get some of those maitre d's like Johnny. Johnny is having a little bout with his health.
Dennis
but
would
he's-
love to see
Yes, I will give you his number.
Okay.
You guys have to get together because
Great
he
times.
has 1,000 stories
Of
as
course.
well. About this evolution, especially in entertainment. What do you think with our entertainment now? We still have some real marquee people, Celine Dion.
Yes.
They could say Celine and we don't know who she
course.
is. But now the baby boomers kind of controlled it. The entertainment, all of the amenities. Now we have the babies of the baby boomers, the millennials. Now we have the millennials, and their taste for music is a little different.
It is.
But what we have found out in our research is that they want vintage Vegas also.
Yes, they do.
They want what their parents talked about. Although they're not dressing up, they want to dress
Yes,
up and come
indeed.
out. And so they're doing that, dressing up, going into those other type of clubs, not discotheques. What are they, Art?
Clubs.
Clubs.
They're
they go to
clubs,
clubs,
okay.
Clubs.
But you're exactly right. And we
Yes.
get that every night, 7 nights a week at the Bootlegger. We have music.
Yes.
And it's the Great American Songbook.
Yes.
And I find what you're saying is exactly true.
Mm-hmm.
They come in and they look at the pictures of all the old Vegas entertainers. They walk in and they say, "Oh my God, a real piano player." And they listen to the music.
Real live music.
And live music. And we have now in our Copa, which is our banquet facility, we have Jerry Lopez and the Fat City Horns, 16-piece orchestra of all the best players in the country. All the, in fact, the guys are working with Lady Gaga, Cher, Celine, and that's their kicks band. But the young people that are just gravitating come and talk to me all the time. They want to hear the stories about Las Vegas. And it's amazing to me how much they relish and cherish that era.
Yes, absolutely.
And I do feel that the marketing people, what happened with the marketing people that came in got younger and younger and younger, and that I don't understand how they lost the tradition and that was the essence of what made Las Vegas special.
Yes. Yes.
And so I'm so happy to hear your research indicates that my instinct and what we're feeling is exactly
Well,
correct.
that's what
Absolutely.
Jackie Robbins is going to do.
He is going to be.
Exactly
It's
like
going to
that.
be fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
Please tell him to call me.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
we will.
I would love to work with him on that. And I know
Yes.
Dennis would too, because we talk about this all the time. There is such a need for that, and to do it right, it'll be a gold mine.
I'm sorry.
And people were you had real common sense and common courtesy in the days of Vegas, which I call vintage Vegas. That's the Vegas that I grew up.
Sure.
Riding downtown in the back seat of the car, looking at all the lights. It looked like daytime. My brother and I would say, "Man, it's daytime down there." It was just the city
Exciting.
was phenomenal, and it just got into every pore of your body.
You bet.
Those that of us that have been here, and of you, of course, that you've added so much. Not
Thank
only
you.
did you come here by divine intervention,
Amen.
if you will.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness that you came here, not only for your dad, but for you and your mom.
So we know Albert was a visionary. You got that straight now.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yes.
asking, because so many people say, you don't talk about your dad that much. I said, he was such a huge influence in our lives, but there's so much to tell. But that's Al's bar.
We did have a little something in common, and it wasn't his rheumatic fever.
Yeah.
I had it when I was young. I don't remember much, other than I had to stay in bed for a long time.
He couldn't even have
it-
sheets on his feet. It was so painful.
Okay, didn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
horror stories.
Oh,
But his health was so restored, and he just loved this town so well. But see, he went from working at the factory. My mother said, it's too many explosions and things going on there. Al, you're going to come with me into the business with the Italian restaurants, because you're going to become a bartender. You're affable. But then my mother and father then partnered in the fourth restaurant with our cousins Angie and Lou Ruvo.
is that our
And
Ruvo?
the Ruvo Institute, and Lou Ruvo was my uncle.
I
And
knew-
Larry Ruvel's my cousin, and
That's
he's done
something else.
wonderful things with the Ruvo Center for Brain Health, which were
Yes.
just because Uncle Lou did have Alzheimer's,
Yes.
and when Angie and Lou went through, and Angie, my mother's baby sister, she's still with us today, and she's
you're old.
96.
Okay, we
So
need
that's another iconic family.
we
the
need to
Ruvo
write a
family.
book.
Oh,
Lady, I'm not.
I'm in the process of trying to do it. If I found the time to sit down, I've
Yes,
got all
you don't.
my stories, but then we still haven't talked about China. When I became lieutenant governor
Life.
and ran for that office, all of a sudden I was in charge of tourism and economic development. Kenny Gwen was the governor, and Kenny said, "What are your goals?" I said, "Well, I like being in the executive branch because I'm kind of a bossy Italian girl anyway, and I can do my own thing with the budget, the tourism budget." So I said, "I want to do a trip to, which we talked about
Yes.
earlier." I said, "I want to go." I had already been to England and opening tourism offices as the chairman of the LVCVA. So I learned a lot about global tourism through the LVCVA, being the chairman and understanding. And I went, as a business person, I said, wait a minute, that whole Pacific Rim, we got billions. How many billion of people there? And what about India? We got to go there
That's
too.
another one.
This is that was all in the master plan. So we got to do this. Well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go to China and see if I can work out some kind of. Oh, they're telling me you're ahead of your time. It's not going to work. Not going to work because there's too many rules and regulations, and we don't have any rights to go over this. Well, I would like to do a little trip. I took with me, Chris Bart would go from the airport in Reno, who was the head of the airport there. I said, Chris, there's a lot of air cargo coming in from here, there, San Francisco, and, just looking at things as a business person. What if we could get some things going on with direct flights and using our Nevada airports as a secondary, because there's a lot of fog and, all the things. So I'd love to go. That would be a great opportunity. I'll go with you. So anyway, we put an entourage together. We took Dr. Stuart Mann from UNLV
Yes.
to expand our all of our. There were so the Chinese were so interested in our hospitality industry, and we could sell curriculum and get all kinds of groups going back and forth, and let's see what we can do to nurture this friendship. Right. Chinese people, beautifully entrepreneurial, hardworking folks, and so we went over there, and I did negotiate a contract, a deal with the People's Republic of China. Right. The United States did not have this contract, did not have a deal to market Nevada. It went under the auspices of, I couldn't have done it as Las Vegas, because Las Vegas is like, oh, no. But
political.
But Nevada, I started with the Wild West. They all knew Bonanza over there. So when it was the entree, it was Bonanza, Cowboys, Stars at Night, all of these things. And then Las Vegas. We can't talk about gaming. No, I'm talking about buffets, showgirls, all the other things, Red Rock Canyon, showing them pictures of all that.
Loved that. Yeah.
They loved all of that. So that was our hook. And I negotiated, and we signed the contract, and we got an exclusivity for Nevada to advertise in the People's Republic of China when there were only 12 other agreements like that. In the United States didn't even have it.
I remember when
it was quite a coup.
You came out.
It opened the door for the Pacific Rim.
Yes.
You came out to CSN, and you put another deal together. I think we have pictures of that. I don't have them right now, but you put another deal together with the Qinghai province,
yes,
who had topography exactly like Las Vegas. They had mountains and desert, right, and I know that you were instrumental in having them to go out to the Desert Institute at UNLV,
yes,
because their farmlands were eroding into desert, and so we sent them to our friends at UNLV.
Exactly.
And so you did a tremendous job in bringing the Qinghai province here. I know that for sure, because I was
you were involved in that.
Yes, I was one of the.
And weren't the people wonderful? They're just sopping it up and so excited, to participate and be a part of it and learn.
I think that door opening influenced Sheldon Adelson at some point down the road. He had that when he went to Macau and thought about it because of what you did.
Thank you.
That was a first. When you go to People's Republic of China, it's kind of scary.
I didn't realize that I was the first. They treated me like I was the president.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. It was like entourages waiting and putting
flags on your car,
and flags on the floor, driving on the sidewalks. We didn't even have to go through customs. They just took us on the tarmac and limousines. And really, it was like, what is going on? And then I realized when the interpreter started telling me, you are the first Nevada elected official, state official, to come to People's Republic of China, and they honor you for that. And it was very, very, it was special. And I went to Macau.
Yes.
Talked to Macau, and I took with me on that trip a book by another Las Vegas high school graduate, Bob Fess. Bob
Fess
wrote the book on gaming, and I had that book, the book, and I had it with me. I had several copies because I knew we were going to go to Macau, and that was my gift to the governor of Macau when he entertained me for lunch and for dinner. And he was saying, well, what do you do there, and how do you do it? And he was trying to pick the brain, and I said, let me tell you, I can't tell you all of this, but I'm going to give you this Bible on gaming. It was written by a dear friend of mine by the name of Robert Fess, who wrote the book on gaming, and that's what we follow in Nevada. You know, the house always has the odds, but you got to give them an honest shot, and da-da-da. And I gave my little litany to him, and that was my gift to him, and I have pictures of him giving me a gift, and I have it at home in my case, yeah. And it was beautiful. I don't know if he ever read the book, but I hope so.
Yes.
Friedman's book, I think it was. I read that book, but Fess is the attorney.
Yes.
Wasn't he? Yes. And
He
it was a
attorney,
legal
yes.
type thing. But you know, in China today, People's Republic of China has no gaming for 1.4 billion people except for Macau.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Think of how's that possible?
Well, and
But
they would always say to me, one China, one China. And I go, wait a minute, one China, there's China mainland, there's Macau, there's Hong Kong, although I'm sad to see what's happening there. But I said, how do you, well, one China, different styles.
Yeah, that's exactly what they say. Different characterization.
But thank God that they are experimenting. It's a big country with all the people and all the problems that they have there. But oh my goodness, it's such an opportunity. And so we did, pioneer that area. And of course, same time, Seoul, Korea, and Singapore, of course, which is wonderful.
I agree with Dr. Peacock. You open up the door for people to see. I mean, the only person of notoriety that was the President Nixon was the only one before you.
Way back.
Yeah.
Way back.
Sure.
But you did the work to bring in that work. The sister relationship,
Sister cities, anything we could do to connect.
State to
I
province.
realized that we did a lot of that when I was a commissioner for Nevada tourism, finding love lock Nevada. Let's lock your love. Let's get the wedding people to go get married there. The little things where people can connect with similarities, and that's exactly what we were doing, trying to find to find these relationships where everybody had the same elements. I did great in all the restaurants.
It sounds
in the People's Republic of China because
what
I loved
a difference.
it. Every kitchen I went into, the same as my mom and dad's. They had the kids in the kitchen doing their homework, the sisters and the aunts and the uncles. Everybody's working in the restaurant.
Different work ethic. Different work ethic.
Oh
there.
my God!
We're more alike than we are different, aren't
Exactly.
we? We're more alike.
We are so
around
much
this world. We're more alike.
And that's why I always like the field of entertainment. We're
Yes.
similar because wherever the entertainers come from, even if they can't speak the language, if you're a dancer or a musician or a singer, you have that that connection. Yeah.
You really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Peacock, we also wanted to talk about a little more about the gaming evolution.
Yes.
How we have changed in gaming. At one time, you mentioned that there were a lot of people from back east that would come here. We didn't have a gaming control board. We developed one to let the people know that it's a fair game. It's no cheating, none of that. Matter of fact, you could lose your license if you got caught doing that. Well, I wanted you to mention the proliferation of Las Vegas. We talked about the East. We didn't talk too much about the Bible Belt, but around the world, they all have taken a page from us, including Macau with the Cotai Strip compared to the Las Vegas Strip.
Yes.
I mean, it's just everything. Vegas has gone everywhere, and a lot of it is because you opened a lot of doors.
Well, there's so many people that did, but they want to emulate what we do. Because it's success.
Yes.
And so that's important to those of us who are still here. We still want to be the leaders, and I think we are, and we should be.
We have to maintain that.
Gaming has changed, obviously, because of technology.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you're going to go with different kinds of gaming, and which is constantly evolving. But still, the essence of everything here is something for everyone, really, when you think about it.
Yes.
The gaming component is shrinking in terms of the revenue. It's now in competition with the retail.
Exactly.
And most importantly,
Shopping.
food and beverage.
Food and beverage.
Points of
Shopping.
sale. Lieutenant Governor, I was going to ask you, being a small entrepreneur, and I don't consider the bootlegger being something small.
We're still a mom and pop.
But it is, and you get that feeling. You can get it from the food for sure. What about
you.
the food evolution in Las Vegas? You now have celebrity chefs at every hotel.
You bet.
How's that? How's that effect? I guess.
I think it's wonderful.
Yes.
Because people are getting, I mean, everybody all over the world love to go out and dine.
Mm-hmm.
And all these celebrity chefs gravitating to Las Vegas.
Yes.
Obviously, it makes it more competitive. But see, I like competition. I think competition's healthy.
Well said.
It is, obviously. And the fact I always tell my staff, don't change Mama's recipes. She survived 72 years in the entertainment capital and now the food capital and gourmet capital of the world. And if they still come in here and love her food, we're doing something right. So we don't want to change that. But the fact that they all gravitated here just put us in more of the Epicurean spotlight as well as the entertainment spotlight. And now what we've been working on too for so many years, trying to get that Brightline train coming here to make it easier for California. But way back when I started in 2003 and 4 in the going to China, I saw the opportunity for sports. And kept saying, we have got to do, and I'm not a sports person. I don't ask me about, Dennis has to tell me what's happening. Where's the football? I can't even see it. Where'd it go? But as a business person, approach everything kind of from that element. I said, we everything. We have the sports books. Well, you can't have any teams here because we're a gaming capital. That was like, at Carson City, that would be the end all. No, wait a minute. We got to be more sophisticated than that. There has to be a way to do this. And slowly but surely, when I was with the Greater Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce, when we had the office down on Sahara, started talking about being the sports capital of the nation first. And then it was, what about the sports capital of the globe? Ha, 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 ha. And then there were some groups that had come to me when I was actually a county commissioner that wanted to do some kind of a international sports development on property on Las Vegas Boulevard between Warm Springs and Windmill. It's still across the street from the bootlegger, all that empty vacant lot. And I said, oh, this is phenomenal. But then the powers that be said, no, you're ahead of your time. This will never work. But in the long run, here we are. We're becoming sports capital, entertainment capital, Epicurean capital, everything you can
We've
imagine.
gone from the gambling capital of the world to the gaming capital to the entertainment capital, and now we're the sports and entertainment capital.
Yeah, because sports is entertainment.
Yes, it
and
is.
you know who opened that door was the Runnin' Rebels.
Yes.
Put us right on the map
Tarkanian.
in this country.
You
Thank
betcha.
you, brother.
Thank you.
No, I'm a walking rebel now.
I know. That's true.
That's true, yes.
That put us in the national spotlight
Yes.
that led us into the global
Yes,
spotlight.
yes,
You're correct.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is a smart group sitting around here.
Yeah, Jerry Tarkanian.
No, you're number one.
No, we
You're
are
number
so
one.
happy that you have taken so much time taken some of your time to be with us and
It's
to be
pleasure.
with our domestic and international audience to really let people know about Las Vegas, not what you've read, but people that have experienced it, people that have contributed to Las Vegas. And you are indeed a big contributor to the evolution of Las Vegas. And I wanted to ask you this.
Yes.
Before we end.
I got to get a question in too before we end.
Okay.
What do you think, and maybe my question should come after yours because I'm
Yes.
going to talk about the future.
Okay.
Well, okay. First of all, I want to say that you are an iconic figure and a role model for women. I have 3 daughters, and all you're right. Lonnie's right when it comes about men and women, but especially women in this day and age. What we're going to show is going to motivate them. And this is one of my big questions.
What?
What about Margaret Thatcher? How did that happen, and how did that impact you at all?
Margaret Thatcher was unbelievable. To meet her. Now, keep
Yes.
in mind, I grew up around major celebrities as a young girl, figuring they're like my relatives almost. We're going to sit in the bungalow. Frank Sinatra's going to order sundaes for me and Carolyn Trotter and all the girls who were sitting around the pool. So I wasn't really a groupie of sorts because I loved
never were
I
in
loved their
awe.
talent,
Yes.
but it wasn't like, oh, I was in awe. But when I was with Margaret Thatcher, I had the honor of a day and a half spending with her, and they had asked me, she was coming in to speak, and they asked if I would host her, be with her, and at the hotel and the lunch and the dinner, and it was, I was in awe like I was with God, because her philosophical views about government, politics, people. She came from the same world basically that I did. Her dad was a poor, poor, but hardworking. Poor,
not the elite class up there.
No,
yes,
you coming up the hard way in a little store and working. I used to do my homework sitting in the storeroom of my parents' Italian restaurants, sitting on a tomato can box, and then 2 boxes were my desk, and the 1 box was my seat, and all the stories that she told me about growing up and her philosophies on economics were so real, and her core values. It was like we just melted like this, and I went, this woman is my God. Other than my own mother being the role model, I would have to say Margaret Thatcher. I've written some articles about her in explaining that.
Oh,
she was
yes.
a brilliant, brilliant person. People would just take to heed, read her material, read everything you can, because if we could follow her principles, her and Ronald Reagan, when she was telling me, sitting dinner with Margaret Thatcher, I couldn't believe it. And she said, well, Ronnie and I did this, and I'm going, I can't believe I'm hearing this. I was
exactly.
in awe.
Okay, good.
What a mind! What a soul!
That's
She just
beautiful.
radiated all the right things, and that's why when they did that movie of Margaret Thatcher, I was very upset because they didn't show her heyday. They didn't show her on her childhood as the storekeeper's daughter, working hard, making her way up through the ranks of men in the British government, and how she became prime minister, and all of that. They didn't show any of that. They showed her as a declining person who was having hallucinations, and she was an Alzheimer victim, and her husband was dead, and she was seeing him. And it was sad, and Meryl Streep did a beautiful job acting, but I want to see part 1 of Margaret Thatcher before part 2.
Yes, absolutely. No, in fact...
That would be the movie.
Yes. I mean, actually, there was one on Netflix that did show her during her strong years, but then
I just saw something that was little clips, but it wasn't.
Yeah, not
the
enough.
real deal.
Not enough for her story.
I'd like to see the real Margaret Thatcher story.
Taking some of the DNA from your dad as a visionary.
Yes.
What do you see Las Vegas evolving into? We talked about sports and entertainment. That's our nuance, if you would, right now. Do you see anything else, business, more sports? What do you see in the future? Or what would you do in the future? Because you've never operated outside the box. You threw the box away. You threw the box away. So
What box?
The what box? Right. That's why we got to China, and that's why things are going so well. And you may not say this, but I think you were a catalyst. The state of Nevada and you were a catalyst to that relationship with China.
Absolutely. I think
really
it was
believe
the
that.
door opener. Yes.
Because you can't think of anyone else that has done as much at the very beginning. Now, everybody's dogpiling on now, but who started that? Who had the vision to do that? Although you had naysayers, you still went ahead and you made it happen. What do you think about our future in Las Vegas with the millennials, with Generation X? And
I think Nevada still has that entrepreneurial soil here. I think it's being smothered. I think we need the right leadership to head us in the right direction. We are in the right direction, and we're doing it despite some of the I consider the lack of maybe vision. But obviously, the Ivanpah Airport, which will be enormous, hopefully, air cargo, passenger traffic for the world and the globe in the future, and that connected, if you look at the Canamex corridor. The Canamex corridor was, as you know, that area designated the North American continent between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And we were starting little by little. There are many people that have been trying to continue that, because that Canamex corridor of trade, that along with our airports and everything else that we have in the United States, but Nevada being the hub, and we're kind of in the smack dab middle of the Canamex corridor. But I can see in the future that Ivanpah Airport being huge, coming as a center, control center for air cargo, passenger, all kinds of things, connecting up with our rail and we have the rail port in Elko, distribution centers up there, because the Canamex corridor, if you I'll go and look on the internet, you'll see the way it goes up through Nevada and it goes up to Utah and then it goes all the way. But technically Nevada could be the stimulus that could put the North American continent, so far above the rest of the world in economy, in standard of living, in showing how people could live, where everybody could share in the benefits of what we're producing. But it has to be done in an entrepreneurial way, and I would wish in our schools, very important, I've said this so many times when I speak with educators, I don't see anything in the early grades, entrepreneurialism being taught. Second, third, fourth grade, my mother taught me how to count out a bank, and we had the restaurant. She would say, I'd say, we're rich, look at all the money in here, and she'd go, now Lorraine, sit over here. She literally made me take, here's the electric bill, the power, and all of a sudden, take that out of the cash, take that away, and all of a sudden, the register's empty, and I go, we're poor. She says, you got to do this, and so that we don't teach that in the classes. We're teaching the wrong things, I think, to young people in the
right.
early years. We're not teaching them how to be individuals, how to think outside of the box.
Critical thinking.
Exactly. And forgetting peer pressure. My parents just taught me, be yourself. Be yourself and all that you can be, and don't be envious. My dad used to take me to Beverly Hills and show me the big mansions, and I go, I'd love to have one of those. And he said, well, you better work really hard or you're not going to get one.
Well said, Dad.
Those are the kind of things, Dad, the visionary.
Yes.
But I think we have a tremendous future in the state because we're a small state, which is more controllable. As I was saying earlier, when you have billions of people like they have in China and India, much harder to try to lead and control. They're going all over the place. But what are we talking about? How many people do we have in this state? We could be the showplace, not only the global spotlight of all the other things that we talked about. We could be the global spotlight of what America really is meant to be.
We got to get that airport back up on the agenda somehow. I haven't heard about it since you just raised it. We heard about it years ago, but then it kind of
You take a look at the airport. I had just recently heard something on a Clark County Commission meeting I had listened to 6 or 8 months ago, and it just made me so happy. Something has been revived, and I don't know if I know that I'm not sure what it is, but they could certainly tell you, because I can see that as a major, I'm talking about air cargo distribution, just think about that. Coming into Nevada, forgetting the coast, and all the congestion and everything over there, coming zoop right over here.
This would be better.
Here,
yes.
Get on the Canamex corridor, our rail system, the Union Pacific Railroad, the trucks and everything going out through the Canamex corridor over to Utah, zip up to Canada, all the way down to Mexico, work with the Mexican government so that the safety of the trucks and all the other little issues that were starting to become resolved. And it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. I could see that. It's so simple. Like when I bought the property at Tropicana and Eastern, they said, well, there's no water out here, there's no sewer, there's nothing but horses and ranch estates, and I saw it as the major intersection and cars driving.
It came to you.
And when I see the Canamex corridor with the airport, the Ivanpah Airport, and with the right leadership in our state, we could be the leaders of the pack.
Well said. Yes.
Thank you so much, the Honorable Lieutenant Governor Hunt.
Yes, but
Bono.
let me close with this one.
Okay.
Because I did extract a great saying.
What?
This is what I do for relaxation. Is what? Sing.
Yes.
Why everybody else does it says, this is what I do. The men can play golf.
That's right.
Guess what I can do?
I've so many people said to me, at first when I became lieutenant governor,
Yes.
even county commissioner, I was hesitant to sing because in the newspapers, even though I was a businesswoman, they say, lounge singer runs for lieutenant governor or whatever. Okay, I was proud to be a lounge singer. So I didn't want to sing too often. But then finally I said, wait a minute. Politicians can play golf. I can sing.
Amen.
So I started singing
That
again.
was great. Great. What a great album.
Thank you.
Well, we thank you so much for taking out some time to not only talk to us, but talk to our audience about the real Las Vegas, the real evolution, and where we're going in the future. And that corridor is just, I hope there's some people
The sky's
listening.
the limit
The sky's-
because that corridor and Nevada is the epicenter, I think,
Yes,
the
we are.
epicenter of everything. And with everything, production, everything coming, we can do so much. But it does take the right leadership and the community buy-in, the involvement. That's what's difficult.
Yes.
To pull all the people together. God, if you could be a dictator, could do it next week.
Yeah, we need a philosopher
But-
dictator. Yeah, no.
If you like what you've heard here today, please hit like and subscribe to our podcast. We, again, want to thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being with
Thank you
us.
all.
Mil grazie.
Oh, thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you both for all the good work you do.
Yeah.
This is most important work.
Yes.
Bless you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.